8th annual conference of Pastoral Fellowship, the Lutheran Church of Liberia, held in Harpers, Maryland County, and hosted by St. Matthew Lutheran Church, Harpers in the Lower Southeast District, Lutheran Church of Liberia, held from Wednesday to Sunday, and then under the theme, promoting the welfare of LCL pastors, a strategic approach to enhancing a healthy church. I must admit that your talk this morning was so exciting and answered some of the issues that I thought I would raise. So thank you for discussing the keynote before the keynote came. Under this theme and text, Matthew 28, 18, 19, and Galatians 6, 6, and I speaking to you. I bring you Epiphany greetings from my family and the Trinity Lutheran Parish, and in the name of our triumph God of life and history, the final arbiter of our life. And I also pray for good deliberations during the 8th annual conference, national conference, of our beloved fellowship of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. I must also pay tribute to the pioneers of past and present or current leadership and the entire membership of our beloved church, the Lutheran Church in Liberia. Interestingly, I am overwhelmed by your invitation or your invite to serve as your keynote speaker at this august and historic occasion, perhaps in my mind for two reasons. Firstly, because you have received official communication about my retirement, or eminent but legal and official retirement, as is written. And secondly, you also want me to welcome you, like Reverend did last night, to the southeastern part of Liberia, a place of my nativity and early education, especially here in Japan, where I obtained high school education. Let me look at the given text in brief within the context of the conference theme. Matthew 28, 18, 19 quotes Jesus directly when he said, and still say to us, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. 19 go therefore make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Here the perimeters of authority, and I emphasize the word authority, are not only stated but defined. It covers heaven and earth. Also the command is clear, to make disciples of all nations, including but all races, nationalities, linguistic and tribal groups, perhaps all classes and styles. This church needs no other authority or command but to act in mission, transcending all barriers, whether they are political, social, or tribal. Also, Galatians 6:6 states that those who are taught the world must share all good things, must share in all good things, which their teacher, with their teacher, and I have added, for your permission, with one another. References also Acts 2, 42, 47, where there was devotion, teaching, fellowship, breaking of bread and prayers. I wait because there were signs and wonders, togetherness, and I'm emphasizing, as we have been repeating in this conference, togetherness, having all things in common, selling all possessions, fairly sharing the proceeds, They were sharing food, they were praising God, and having goodwill of all people. Therefore, God added to their number. If you're looking for strategy for evangelization, I normally don't use the word evangelism. Evangelization, that would be a very good strategy. The concept defines evangelization and not evangelism as a method, not a concept, but not a program or an event. The key question for me is who occupy this, or who's supposed to apply these concepts in the 21st century church of our 21st century church in our context, and where can they be applicable? Two answers stand out. The pastors, and I agree with you, you said, you, the pastors, and of course they are applicable in the church for our purposes in the LCM. In the Human Illustrated Bible Dictionary, complete, revised, and updated, and expanded, Frank C. Butler, and all define the two key words, pastor and church. Pastor, in common translation of Greek noun, poimen, emphasizing in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11. If you read that text, the task is divided. And its verse formed also in the Hebrew round is in Jeremiah 3, 15, 10, 21, 12, 10, 22, 22. Literally, a shepherd or one who keeps animals. You see your task? One who keeps animals. But figuratively used of these all people who are called by God. And what are they called? To feed. Jeremiah 3:15, John 21:16, to care for. Acts 20:28, Paul mentioned that, to lead. And 1 Peter 5:2, these people who are his flock, much instruction directed towards such as church leaders are found in the Paul epistles, which are 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus. Primarily, the idea is applied to Christ in Isaiah 14:11, Matthew 2:6, John 10:11-14. In the New Testament, pastor and shepherd appears to depict the aspect of functions and responsibilities of the overseer or elder. 1 Peter 2:25, the Greek word ecclesia referred to an assembly or a local body of believers, or, as I always said, to the universal church. My analysis of the church, which is theologically biblical, is that the church is congregational, the church is denominational, and the church is ecumenical. The pastors in the LCM. The office of the pastors is unique, like most mainline Protestant churches. Hence, the pastors are properly called through a recruitment process led by this BMTEA. They are trained, I agree with the last night, they are ordained by our order and assigned to words of sacrament. They are the chief administrators in the LCR. Get it straight and get it right. The Constitution is clear on that. And since I say I will have a short conversation, let me proceed. So the pastors are chief administrators in the LCR, not the parish council chairperson. They perform rituals like marriages, burial, conduct occasional service, worship services, and attend to or lead visitations in addition to preaching and teaching of all of God's people. What benefits or what constitutes the pastor's welfare? The welfare of all pastors who met the conditions stated above is somewhat into two. Your benefits of the welfare are somewhat into what I call spiritual and or physical or material. The spiritual welfare of the LCO pastor must be grounded in scriptural and doctrine as ministers must lead and not be led by parishioners and other contemporary influences intruding into the congregational life. He or she must be spiritually attuned or sound, stable and dependable, not to betray trust and confidence repose in him or her. He or she must be trusted and reliably depended upon by members, the church, and the community as a moral guide, counselor, and a force in charge of family and the church. Also, the physical welfare of pastors must cover or include socio-economic, medical sureties, and all certainty. The current economic status of our ministers or pastors demeans and undermines their social position both in the church and in the society. The pastors and ministers have no medical insurance. Their families are vulnerable to diseases, even malaria attacks, let alone major illnesses or ailments, and in most life-threatening medical conditions. Because of the low and degrading economic status of our pastors and ministers in this church, not only they and their spouses are vulnerable, but also their children's education is under serious threat. This is one of the reasons why pastors and ministers' children resist church activities and even dare never to pursue ministry as a life career. Not only our children, but also youth in our respective congregations are keenly observing the poverty-driven lifestyle of our pastors and ministers. Our purchasing power is not commensurate, or is commensurate to our consuming power for goods and services. For whom all farms, all common clothes to dress properly and look presentable at church and in societal public occasions and programs. Megiddo and Natuburi written the book of Democracy and Reconciliation. It's a challenge for African Christianity to speak to how elections betray its purpose. The same, where an ethnic majority finds itself in power, it may leave little or no space for minorities to enjoy their cultural, religious, and linguistic rights. In a system where the winner takes all, minorities are often condemned to be permanent losers with their rights. They are neither guaranteed nor protected. However, they also propose what election should and ought to bring or to address as a commitment to equality. And I'm saying this, and I'll come back to that and say, when we have this situation in all of the history of our church, and I'll end with that remark, then we say, well, we can go to elections. The question is that, have elections satisfied our needs? And that's the question I try to address. However, they propose what elections ought to be and ought to bring in terms of politics and commitment. What should elections give us, not only as a church, but also as a nation? It will provide us leadership that provide human dignity, justice, concern for the poor, moral principle, righteous integrity, incompatibility and of courage, mental acumen, accuracy in quickness of judgment, competence, proper management of public funds, and other national resources and democratic governance. And in his mission church says that the real issue in the current crisis of our church worldwide, or even the Lutheran church, is the church, the Christian church is spiritual and theological. Pointing to the crisis, he admits they are complex, meaning the crises in the church are complex. They come from diminishing membership or numbers, to clergy going out, the loss of youth, the end of denominational loyalty, biblical illiteracy, divisions in the ranks of fire. You did well, analyze that well, and the Bible said it. The electronic church and its various corruptions, the irrelevance of traditional forms of worship, the loss of genuine spirituality, and widespread confusion about both the purpose and the message of Jesus Christ. To answer the current crisis in the church described above, Aubrey Murphy, in his book called Advanced Strategy Planning, a New Model for Church and Ministry, he argues and describes the church age in a sigmoid curve depicting 5 stages. This author is saying the church, whether we like it or not, will have to go through 5 stages. Stage 1 is when the church was born, at birth. The next stage is when the church is growing its growth. The other is when it reaches plateau. Anything that grows really has to reach its zenith. That's what he called plateau. Then it starts to decline. And when it's declining and no cautions are taken, finally, that church will die. That's the final stage of death of the church. This cycle must inform our discussion here to find out where is the LCM. Are we at birth? Are we at growth? Are we at plateau? Are we decline? Or we die? Let me crack the joke here for the purpose of our humor. When we were growing up, somebody said, "Oh, Bishop Billy killed the church." And then I laughed. And he said, "The church is to the graveyard. We watch it whether Bishop Billy will bury." And then we passed that stage for Bishop Billy. And he said, "No, Bishop Billy told the church to the graveyard, but he didn't cover it." So we see what Bishop Harris does. And then when Bishop Harris was leaving, he said, he covered it halfway, he didn't finish. And so it told and then Bishop Jesse came and said, and maybe we have a situation resurrected. And then and here today we have my dear friend, the brother who grew up in ministry, the Right Reverend Dr. Victor G. Patton. The question is, where is the LCM? Interestingly, our theme for this conference to promote pastors' welfare is a strategic approach to enhancing a healthy church, and I will add, in the 21st century, it's time. Your theme is unique and indispensable, absolutely necessary. But it raises a historical stewardship and management questions. It must compel us to do 3 things: to think strategically, to plan strategically, and to act strategically. This is the context of the 21st century. Nobody in the world who go doing things and just do it by random and do it by trial and error. No. They must be properly planned, properly organized, and properly implemented. And that brings out some of the questions you raised back there. The question of evaluation, the question of monitoring. Anything that is not planned cannot be evaluated or monitored. It's not possible. Here, 2 issues must be addressed in order to promote our pastors' welfare and facilitate a healthy church. Firstly, our pastors need or should be recruited. And this, I think, refers more to the board, where I said now. They must be recruited with a clear roadmap from recruitment, development, growth, and financial retirement. What I'm saying is that we can't just go in any congregation, in any country, and any county or community, and recruit young people, bring them to the church, and blindfold them. They just go, they don't know where they're going, until they stop their toe and go down into the pit. We have to address it. So for me, to address the question raising, the first is that we must and we need to organize a recruitment process that gives you a roadmap. The day we recruit you, the day we assign you, the day that you will tell you are promoted to this, and to the time we say, goodbye. Here at GST, in Bangla, Dr. Rahab Makai, Pastor Bama, remember now, Bishop, remember that Dr. Rahab Makai. When he comes to see you, you better get organized. It's a man, and then you know that the man is coming. When we're telling him goodbye after his mission in Liberia with the Methodist Church, he said, I remember and I know, and I want to tell you that there is a time to say welcome, have a seat, and there's another time to say goodbye. All of us will pass that level. not just by death, but also by our pastoral life. We should not pretend and think that things will not change. Things all will change. So I'm saying there is a roadmap for recruitment, development, growth, sign and family type. That means we must recruit pastors with a clear vision plan that includes diversified skill sets for them to fit well in the contemporary society, which with multiple needs. Tent making ministry, I'm raising a controversial issue. Tent making ministry versus life or full-time ministry. In my mind, or theologically thinking, this is no conflict nor confusion. And I'm open to discussion. I always stop and talk to me. How do we handle this? Here, Stoop and Duke, in a book called How to Think Theologically, give us clear answers. And we call that common techniques. Common techniques. Common techniques. One is listening, and another one is question. Listening involves an active waiting that allows new information in. Is prepared to be surprised. Remains open to the illusion or elimination of the spirit. And questioning is a corrective to complacency. The danger of becoming satisfied with all answers and preconceptions. We subjected our own answers to yesterday to fresh questioning in order to embrace new situations and new insights. The aim of listening is receptivity, and the aim of questioning is honesty. Second, the parishes and the LCL should develop and implement an investment plan at the parish level, in my mind, district level, then LCL level. Bishop made intervention anytime when you were doing the Bible study, and my anonymous notes. So the investment plans come from our parish and district at national level that addresses the preaching, teaching, and healing ministry of the Lutheran Church in Liberia, which become our core mission, or our core mission area. And I am grateful to the leadership of the Pastoral Fellowship of our church and the honor to come address this conference. And in addressing what I call the over-vexing question or problem. Adequate support for our pastors and ministers. Without such support, my brothers and sisters, our families, who I say on the list, our families' livelihood and their children's future are under attack and seriously threatened. On one hand, the life of the church also remains unhealthy. On the other hand, I will therefore think that we need to think strategically and act strategically, utilizing the skills and talents of our members to address this threat on our livelihood and a threat to the church and the family in our future. I want to close on this, which is not in the note. We heard about a theory called the three theory: self-governing, self-propagating, and self-supporting. In fact, some of us have written about that in our graduate work. And we have passed the state of self-governing, self-propagating. The question still remains self-supporting. And that's what William Klaus, one of the missionary researchers, called psychological ownership. I think we are not there yet. I also want to say to you that Winston Churchill once said that the pessimist, I call that pessimist versus optimist. He said the pessimists do not see any opportunity in any situation, but the optimists, even in dangerous situation, they see opportunity. And I don't want you to be pessimists, to see danger in every situation. You can be an optimist, who even in difficult situations, you get answers, which I think we should emphasize, and I want to emphasize that. I joke you on the theory we learned before, social dynamics, taught by Hezekiah Sasiva. And this one is to pump you to joking. Is that he said, when the society is confused and they want leadership, and because the leaders are up and the place closed, then I will say to God, push me, I go up there and I will come down so I can see what happened here. And then you fight, and then you carry me up. When you carry me up, then the iron curtain comes. This is the dynamics of social society. Society of our political situation. But I think our interests, our opinions, our perceptions, our goals cause us to be in conflict all of the time. And we should not stay on the lose-lose, the win-lose. My proposal is that we must fight for win-win solution. On that note, I thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend Collins.
So that was the voice of Reverend
For the powerful instrument just
B.
presented
Collins,
to us,
the keynote speaker
to
at this
energize us
8th annual
as we have
conference
gathered
of
here
the
to discuss
Lutheran Church Pastoral
issues that
Network.
bring about growth and development for our church and the welfare of our pastors. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And so we received a round of applause from pastors.
You know why I begin to do photo? Many of you were sleeping. And I have it in the photo already. So when editing the whole story, you will see yourself sleeping. I don't know why you took enough yen and the other stuff. I saw many people